Well, all right. Pharmacist Ben.
That's me. What's going on, Mr.
How are
AJ?
you, sir?
I'm doing good.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good, and Friday when we last did our daily with Doc, it dawned on me, which should have dawned on me earlier, but it dawned on me that we never finished those. So we should have like a regular secondary bright Pharmacist Ben Bites program that we do regularly. What do you think?
We should have it pretty regularly, although
we can't do it all on in 1 hour on Daily with Doc. Yes, although what was your although?
We cannot do it all on Friday. I do agree, but to designate this show as the cleanup show, I'm not sure that's the right characterization. I think that we're primary on our own.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. We're not like we're no mere extension. We're no mere satellite. We're not a child of Daily with Doc.
Although we are
adults on our own. All right, I hear what you're saying. All right, I like that actually. I do. I like that. Let's do a regular thing, me and you.
We will. And I had some folks comment that when you were giving Becca a little bit of ribbing about being one of her favorite pharmacists, the people were like, "He's our favorite pharmacist."
Thank you, Becca. What do you mean one of? I haven't been able to get that out of my head. I wonder who my competition is.
If you were just real quick, if you were a doctor, you could choose like Dr. Oz or like
all right. There's no other pharmacist. Yeah,
but there's no other pharmacist. Pharmacist Ben is it. There's no competition.
Thank you, AJ. Becca, AJ understands. AJ gets it.
That's right.
All right.
So, Pharmacist Ben, before we get to the questions that we missed on Friday, I gotta mention to you that a lot of times you kind of say things like, I don't want you folks to think I'm beating a dead horse by mentioning, the mechanism.
Sometimes. Yeah, I feel silly repeating myself over and over again.
However,
I'm listening.
Not a day goes by where I have to explain the mechanism of their people's autoimmune disease, their Hashimoto's, their lupus. Every single day, this has got to occur. So
you're right, because we're up against a model that repeats itself just as much as we do, or no, not just as much, way more than we do, with much more resources, repeating resources than we do. We don't have the same resources that the medical model has. So when they repeat a meme, over and over and over again about how, autoimmune disease has no known cause and it's hereditary, this and that and the other, whatever they talk about. So we do have to repeat. I get that. But I feel funny repeating because I keep repeating and it just makes me, it makes me feel like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again.
Reaching more and more people each time. New people every day.
I will do that. And I'll as uncomfortable as I am with it, I recognize it's important. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Becca, let's jump right into it. Come on and explain your question from Friday, as we are the child show of Daily with Doc, apparently.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Ben, let me clarify, okay?
Yes.
The other pharmacists that I know are not as strong as you. So the competition is weak compared to you. There's really no comparison.
How I look at it.
Digging a hole, Becca. Digging a hole.
The ultimate pharmacist.
Right. Thank you. Okay? I appreciate that. And I was just teasing you. But go ahead. Let's answer some questions here.
Well, where do we start? I have so many here. I think the first one that I want to go to, though, has to do with a little kid. I mean, as a mom and a grandparent, kids really have some place in my heart. And Elijah wrote, "Hi, I heard you talk about cannabinoids from hemp. My son has been diagnosed with mania. I believe it's been helping some when he takes them. Is there a point when he should no longer need them? The effect is temporary."
Well, yeah, because it's a drug. You're not solving the problem. You're solving the symptom. So the drug goes away. Cannabinoids are drugs. You know, they're a little closer to biochemistry than an ordinary drug is. Phytocannabinoids being similar to cannabinoids that your body makes. So there's no real drugs that have that kind of biosimilarity, maybe bioidentical hormones, but most drugs don't have a compatibility with the body like the cannabinoids do or the phytocannabinoids do. Nonetheless, they're drugs. And so you're not taking care of the problem. Mania is due to a few different things. First of all, I'm always hesitant to treat psychological issues, which mania is, strictly with nutrition. That having been said, there are nutrients that have a calming effect on the body, and there's things that you do to the body, or the brain, I should say. There are things that we do to the brain through our diet that can exacerbate mania. But mania oftentimes has some hidden psychological roots that need to be addressed. A lot of times kids who are manic it's a coping mechanism. And what we call psychological diseases, distresses, depression, manic, they used to call it manic depressive, now they call it bipolar, mania. What else? What are some other psychological issues? Those are the big ones that come to mind, is the ups and the downs. In any case, anxiety. What's that?
Would schizophrenia fit into that?
No, that's not really. That's more organic. But strictly psychological issues need to be addressed at the psychological level. That's first of all. Second of all, there's more signals coming from your body to your brain than going from your brain to your body. Lots more, probably 10 times more. Why is that important? Because what we often think about brain issues are really physical issues, and the brain is interpreting the physiology. So by controlling your physiology, you can do a lot to control your brain and ultimately your psychology. So things like slow breathing techniques, for example, muscle relaxation techniques, things that are somatic in the body can affect the psyche by virtue of the fact that the brain is constantly reading the body. Even your posture is being read by your brain to assess a certain psychological state. So it's hard to be depressed when you're crunched or when you have a good posture. Depression is associated with crunched up posture. So little things like that you can use to control. There are certain little tricks you could do, like a real cool little trick for people who are depressed, not necessarily for manic, is to shake. When you shake, it's you actually generate energy, electrical charges in your body that will be read by your brain as being stimulating. So that's a good way to get out of depression. If you're manic, doing the opposite, relaxing your muscles. So that's a second component. Work on the body to affect the brain. And then third of all, there's full-blown nutritional deficiencies. B vitamins are very calming. Deficiencies in B vitamins can cause mania. Deficiencies in certain minerals. Lithium, for example, has often been used to treat bipolar disorder. So you might want to try lithium, which can have a calming effect. You can either get lithium on its own, or you can get lithium in the plant-derived minerals. There's lithium. Also, let's see what else. Omega-3 fatty acids have a calming effect. Magnesium has a calming effect. Inositol is a B vitamin-like substance that has a calming effect. Tryptophan has a calming effect. Glycine has a calming effect. All these you'll find in your TMR shake. And speaking of TMR shake, which is high protein can have a calming effect on the body. And the more protein you eat, the less sugar you'll eat. And sugar can stimulate mania. Also using nutrients to help you stabilize blood sugar, like in the healthy blood sugar packs. There's lots of stuff you could do. Phytocannabinoids are going to act like drugs. They'll have a calming effect. Basically, you're getting stoned, basically, except it's not as strong as marijuana, but it's the same idea. You're just calming everything down. You can use, I always, just to repeat, I always use psychological strategies to deal with psychological issues. If there's something going on in the kid's life, that has to be addressed. Working on the body, because there's more signals coming from the body to the brain than the brain to the body. The brain's constantly reading the body. So slow, deep breathing, muscle relaxation, warm water, all of these have a calming effect. And then nutrients, B vitamins, inositol, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, your osteomag, your healthy start pack. Sipping on Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Sometimes people think Beyond Tangy Tangerine makes them hypes them up. That would be unusual. I'm not going to dispute anybody's experience if they really experience that, but that's not how nutrients work. That's the way the medical model looks at nutrients, because they look at them like drugs. The nutrition really balances things. It's not like you can take vitamin K and all of a sudden your blood's going to clot, for example. It's not like you're going to take vitamin E and all of a sudden your blood's going to thin, for example. It's not like you're going to take the B vitamins and they're going to give you lots of energy. You won't be able to sleep. That's not how the body uses nutrients. It uses nutrients to drive chemistry. And if you need to sleep, B vitamins are not going to keep you from falling asleep. And if your blood is supposed to clot, it's going to clot whether you have vitamin E present or not. And if your blood's supposed to be thin, it's going to thin whether you have vitamin K present or not. The medical folks look at nutrients like they're drugs. So Beyond Tangy Tangerine actually has a calming effect if you're deficient, and you might want to try that. Certainly the Healthy Start Pack, the omega fatty acids, osteomag, there's tons of things. If there's any kind of, and this is another issue, we always talk about comorbidity. So you want to look for comorbidities, other health issues that are more fundamental that you can work on directly that will affect the brain. So for example, if you have dysbiosis, that is disruptions in gut bacteria, that can lead to jitteriness, anxiousness. What's the word I'm trying to say here? Anxiety.
Either.
Anxiousness, being jittery. It's not just what you may call manic, and that can be caused by dysbiosis, disruptions in gut bacteria. So working on the gut, asking about digestive health. Autistic kids who are manic in their own way notoriously have dysbiosis, gut problems. That's another thing you can look at. So, comorbidities. So there's comorbidities. There's nutritional supplements. There is food issues like keeping the sugar out of the diet, and also excitotoxins out of the diet. And then there's the psychological level itself, and then there's the physical level work in the body. So there's tons of stuff you can do for that.
I just want to chime in real quick. One time I was with a friend's kids in the family, and they gave them some Christmas cookies. And this was 10 p.m. The kids were jumping off the wall, and they looked at the kids and said, "What happened? What's going on?" I'm like, "It's called sugar."
Exactly. That's and moms with children know that good and well. Like after you eat the popsicle, or after you have a Snickers bar, after you have ice cream, whatever it is.
If they're paying attention, they may not recognize it. Yeah, they may not recognize it.
Yeah, right. You just read my mind with that comment, AJ.
Cool.
Okay. I hope that helped.
What else you got, Becca?
Well, I've got another one. The question is AFib a chronic degenerative disease?
It's a symptom of a chronic degenerative disease. It has to do with degeneration of the heart muscle. The heart muscle, the heartbeat is a very, very complicated process. We take it for granted, but a lot of things have to go right. There's these cells that are actually, do you ever see, in races, sometimes they'll have a runner in the front of the race they call them, he paces the racers. Mm-hmm. Well, you have that kind of system in the heart. You have a pacemaker system in the heart. They have artificial pacemakers, people have, but the heart has its own pacemaker. And that pacemaker controls the heartbeat. And once the pacemaker is, think about it, how would the heart beat? It's a bunch of cells that are operating in a coherent fashion. It's pretty incredible how a heart beats. Each heartbeat requires just the right sequence of contraction and expansion of millions, maybe even billions of cells, probably millions of cells or tens of millions of cells, all have to contract and expand. Think about this. You ever see how they do the wave, like at a stadium where people stand with like that, but somebody stands up and somebody sits down, somebody stands up, and the net effect is a wave, right? Well, that's what's happening to heart cells. They're opening and closing and opening and closing. They're creating a wave, just like a wave in a stadium. But all that opening and closing requires oxygen. It requires a clean environment. It requires healthy cell membranes. It requires nutrition. It requires a whole host of substances. When those are not present, that whole complicated wave process isn't going to happen correctly. And instead of getting a heartbeat that's solid, boom, 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 you get like gibberish, like Jello. That kind of, can you picture what I'm saying? So again, boom, boom, boom. It's like that. That's called fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is a sign that heart cells are not getting what they need. There's several reasons for that. I'll tell you what they are, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the second part of that is the nervous system play into it?
Of course it does. Absolutely it does. What is it that's initiating the contractions? It's their nerves. So obviously the nerves, absolutely. The point I'm making is that's the mechanism. You have a contaminated system. You know, when they make computer chips, I forgot if I mentioned this last week. When they make computer chips, they have to wear a gown and they have to wear gloves. They can't. Why is that? Because if one little speck gets into a computer chip, the computer chip's trashed, or lots of computer chips will be trashed. Well, that's how a cell is, except it's zillions of times more sensitive than a computer chip. And so once you start getting the system distorted and disturbed, this is how disease progresses. It's not medical. It's not medical. This is not a medical issue. We treat it like a medical issue because we're hypnotized. We're entranced. This is not medical. Do you understand how I'm saying? Like, you have this complicated process, and the heart's one, but they're always happening all over the body. Once it gets contaminated, doped is what they call it in the world of computer chips. They call it doping. Once it gets doped, contaminated, adulterated, either with toxins, and sugar being a major toxin, or there's nutritional deficiencies, or there's disturbances at the level of the cell and the cell membrane, you can't help but have a problem in the heart. It's going to cause a problem with the heartbeat. So that's the mechanism. So what do? Well, the number one cause of atrial fibrillation is sugar. So, or actually, even before that, that's the number two cause. Number one cause is oxygen. The cells aren't getting oxygenated. So immediately, just breathing, learning to breathe correctly is important. Now, it's not as simple as breathing because inflammation will block the delivery of oxygen. So you got to work on the blood. And I'll tell you about that here in a second. But just breathing will make a difference. Slow, deep, rhythmic breathing. And you will notice before you get into angina or some kind of heart issue, fibrillation, that there's a tendency to stop breathing. You're going to stop. You'll notice you stop breathing. Same with panic attacks and you know, all kinds of manifestations of distress. Oxygenation is the number one need for the body, not nutrition. Oxygen. So without oxygen, you get 3 minutes. Without nutrition, you could live 40 days. But without oxygen, you can't live 4 minutes. So oxygen is critical. Slow, deep breathing is a must. Then there's the sugar aspect. It's no accident atrial fibrillation and diabetes go hand in hand, and dysglycemia, they go together. Cardiovascular disease and dysglycemia. So what is the answer? Sugar. Not only reduce your sugar intake, but use nutrients to help you process sugar. And it's no accident that all of those nutrients that help you process sugar also help you with the heart. Niacin and magnesium and thiamine and omega fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids. All of these are important for blood sugar control and important for cardiovascular health. No accident. And then reducing cortisol also is important, calming the body down, keeping the body calm. Getting on the healthy brain and heart pack is a must. I would also probably throw in, if you want to add everything, the ultimate niacin probably. Fucoid Z can be very helpful for people who have atrial fibrillation because Fucoid Z thins the blood. Remember, blood is delivered through oxygen is delivered through blood. And if you're dealing with what everybody deals with when they have a chronic degenerative disease, which is sticky, dirty blood, Fucoid Z thins the blood. This is a very, very important reason for Fucoid Z's multiple benefits. You know how Fucoid Z has all of these benefits? It's good for your liver. It's good for your cholesterol. It's good for your blood sugar. It's good for cancer, the immune system. It's good for so many different things, is because it's a blood purifier. It helps spread the red blood cells so that they can flow more effectively. When we get sick, what I call dirty blood is blood cells that are all clumped up. Fucoid Z helps spread them along. And omega-3 fats also have that effect. And interestingly, glucogel also has that effect. And that's another little handy-dandy benefit of your glucogel caps, which people, of course, never take for their heart. They take for their joints. But it also has a blood-thinning effect. Ultimate enzymes as well has a blood-thinning effect. So anything you can do to improve oxygenation, to improve nutrition, and to remove any toxicity, just like you're dealing with a computer chip. Any piece of dust that gets into a computer chip is going to destroy the computer chip, and any piece of sugar, for example, or bacterial particles that come in from a leaky gut is going to mess up your heart.
So now, of those products that you recommended, even if it was because of a nerve damage,
Say that again. I lost you.
So even if the AFib has nerve damage as part of the contribution,
well,
the
if there's how would the nerve get damaged? They got punched. They got into trauma. I wouldn't. If there is some kind of nerve damage, then there's not much you can do at that level. But I wouldn't attribute it to that. It's much more likely that this person is not. That's like, I don't know who this person is, obviously, but I would assume this person isn't, eating everything they should be eating. I'm assuming this person doesn't have other metabolic issues. Now, maybe this person was perfectly healthy and they got into a wreck and now all of a sudden they have AFib. That, I suppose, could be possible, but you're not going to do anything about that. That gets back to what we call locus of control. Control where you can control. You have plenty of control over oxygenation. You have plenty of control over blood sugar. You have plenty of control over leaky gut. You have plenty of control over the nutritional supplements that you need. So there's the whole element of locus of control. If there's nerve damage, there's nerve damage. I can't help. There's nothing we can do about that. But there are things that you can do, and I would doubt that that's the only cause. Is this person on?
Becca, is this person on?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Pharmacist Ben, I got a question though. But what about things like the niacin plus and the synaptive to help stimulate nerve growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimate niacin. Yeah, ultimate niacin would be something I would add, and then synaptive probably wouldn't hurt. Oh, you talking about for the nerves? Mm-hmm. I don't know. How does this person know that they got into a car accident? How do they know that there's going something up with the nerve? The doctor told them. How do you believe everything your doctor tells you? I don't know that. I certainly wouldn't believe everything your doctor told you. So how does this person know? Have you been to a rolfer? Have you been to a bodywork person? I mean, there's so many ways you could address this. I didn't know that it was a car accident, but yes, car accident, if there is some kind of nerve damage, that might have an effect. I would find it much more likely that this person has dysglycemia or dysbiosis. That seems to be like it's much more likely than that's a nerve issue.
And there are symptoms of both. So this particular person.
That's how I would be approaching it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I just want to say, hey, AJ, thanks for letting me be part of your program.
Yeah.
Like you allow me to be part of yours. Thank you for bringing me in.
You're in AJ's home now.
That's right.
You're in AJ's crib.
This is my house. It's my rules. Okay.
I do like your logo.
I wonder who made that. Pharmacist Ben, while she's here, I do have a quick question. A lot of times people think that sometimes we might be snake oil people. And I'm just wondering, sometimes people kind of think that we're snake oil people.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Well, but my question would be, is there a way you kind of addressed something that was pretty serious with Becca just a second ago?
Which one?
AFib, anything else? Is there a way to address these things with food? Are you familiar with?
Not 100%. Depending on what it is, our food is so corrupt. Our food is so for the soil upwards. It's very difficult to get what you need from food. But certainly, food is something you got to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine getting all your nutritional needs met if you're a high performance person, athlete, or having a high performance life from just getting your nutrients from food. Uh-huh. I mean, maybe it's possible.
Helping the body to repair itself with just food.
As opposed, what do you mean by just food? Is food and no nutrition, no supplements?
Food and no supplementation.
I suppose if you ate enough, no, it's not really possible. Look, let's take vitamin E. 400 international units of vitamin E is a good place to be. The best source of vitamin E is like sunflower seeds or sunflower oil. Do you know how much sunflower seeds you have to eat to get 400 IU vitamin E?
How many? I'm curious.
Bathtub full. You can't eat that much food. Now you say, well, you don't need that much nutrients. You'll have to make that call yourself. I don't think that. That's not how I look at it. Pharmacy would say the dose makes the medicine. I believe in saturating the system. One of the things that happens, I do use this in my skincare formulations. There's a phenomenon called driving. When you see, I'm gonna, I'll show this in the camera here. I'll turn the light off here. When you see a chemical reaction, right? You probably remember this. I don't know if you remember this. Let me see if I can do this here. Okay, you ever seen this before? A goes to B.
I can see A goes to B. Yeah.
A goes to B. That's a chemical reaction. But what people don't see sometimes is that the arrow never goes in just one direction. It goes in two directions.
Mm-hmm.
And what we call a chemical reaction is just A going to B more than B going to A.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
And so you have a choice in whether A goes to B or B goes to A. If you load everything up on one side, you can push the reaction this way. That's called driving a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me?
Yes.
And so by loading things up on the pre-building side, if you will, you can force the reaction to go in a building direction versus in a breakdown direction. And that's why mega dosing is so helpful. And it's not only in nutrition, also skincare. It's one of the secrets to the effectiveness of my formulations is I'm putting so much nutrients on the top end, we're driving them through the skin and into the cells and into the chemical reactions. So can you do it with food? Look, every time you eat a food, maybe 1%, if that, is getting into your body. 99% is getting wasted. So it's not really possible to do it strictly with food. I wish it was. At one time, maybe it was when our food was pure and pristine, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. But I don't think it's possible these days. So when they say snake oil salesman, nobody who's tried these and worked with these and correctly is going to say snake oil salesman. People who've used them not incorrectly might. I tried these vitamins, they didn't work for me. That kind of thing.
I've not encountered one person that said, I tried your supplements based on your recommendation and they did nothing.
That's not possible. They're just not used correctly. It's not possible for most people. Now, people who are already supplementing and who already know about supplementation, they're not going to get the same kind of dramatic results that people who don't supplement. People who don't supplement, if they do it correctly, will get dramatic results. Not like half the time, 3/4 of the time, all the time. Because when you're deficient, your body sucks these things up like a dry sponge sucks up water. And you're going to drive those reactions like I just showed. So if you're not getting the results, it's not because of the nutrients, it's because you're not doing them correctly, or you're not processing them correctly, absorbing them correctly. It's a whole bunch of reasons, but it's not the nutrients themselves. That's like saying, if you have a light and the light bulb's out, saying that electricity stuff, that's baloney. That doesn't work. I tried that electricity stuff, but it didn't make. I turned my light on, it didn't work. That's electricity. Who made up that baloney? It's not the electricity. It's the light. It's the bulb. It's the device. Don't blame the electricity. You follow what I'm saying? The nutrients are electricity. They're giving you the juice. It's not the juice. It's the system that's trying to process the juice. Don't blame the juice.
Anthony on YouTube saying, I've had essential tremors of the head. I'm currently taking the Healthy Body Start Pack. What can I do to alleviate?
Lots of things. And I've been dealing with the Parkinson's. That's not Parkinson's, but it's a movement disorder. One of the first principles of healing is where you see the problem is not where the problem begins. If you want to take care of something where you see the problem, go to a doctor. That's what they do. They'll take care of where they see it. If you want to really take care of the problem, you don't go to a doctor. You backtrack it. Guess what part of the body is the first place to backtrack when you have a movement disorder?
Could it be the gut?
Now, I've been talking about this for years, obviously, because, that's my thing is the gut. Now you're starting to see it out there in the world of science. And the articles are starting to come out now about Parkinson's disease and Bell's palsy and various movement disorders and leaky gut and what they call LPS, lipopolysaccharides, bacterial particles, endotoxins, they call them, and various molecules, histamine and other things that get into the bloodstream. You're now starting to see it. Talking about it for years. You don't need any scientists or doctors to verify it. It's logic. So that's the first thing. Hypoglycemia, low blood sugar will exacerbate the problem. And then nutritional deficiencies, of course. B vitamins, very important for all movement issues. Omega fats, very important for all movement issues. Vitamin E might be helpful. You get all this, by the way, in the Healthy Start Pack. You might want to throw in the Synaptive if you wanted to do something else. And then focus on foods. I'd have to get a little more information if you have central tremors. If you have head tremors, I'd want to know what other comorbidities. He's on YouTube.
He is. Anthony.
Ask about comorbidities, other health issues, but that's the first thing I would think of.
We have a friend named Yvonne. She's very big on tyrosine. As
Tyrosine's awesome. Tyrosine's awesome, not for necessarily for this. Tyrosine is a precursor to your stress hormones and to your pigment hormones. And tyrosine by itself, if you get tyrosine by itself, it gives you it's like speed. It's turned into adrenal hormones, and it acts like an upper. If you're trying to wean yourself off of caffeine, it gives you a little bit more jittery energy than caffeine does. But if you're trying to wean yourself off of caffeine, tyrosine is a great supplement. Tyrosine's found in high protein foods. And I think we were talking about this last week. Didn't we talk about the amino acids acting individually?
We get a little bit. Yeah.
Amino acids have individual properties. Even though they go to build peptides and proteins, they individually have various health properties, like arginine for the heart, tyrosine for energy, lysine for cold sores. What other interesting amino acids are there? Probably taurine for the heart, for energy, for anti-aging. Taurine is now being recognized as an important anti-aging amino acid. I've been taking taurine powder for a long time, for at least a couple of years, 3 grams a day. I don't take it every single day, but 4 or 5 days a week, 3 grams of taurine for anti-aging properties, for the heart, for the eyes, for the skin. So individual amino acids definitely have therapeutic and health benefits. Tyrosine gives you energy. It's also a precursor to pigment for folks who are dealing with pigment issues.
Okay. So, yes, absolutely. So, a lot of times, you see these different memes on the internet. I'm not entirely sure if people are able to identify if they're real or not. I've got a ton of them that I've noticed and I see. But which, so for example, um, people talk about the diaphragm, for example, as something that you would use for stress response.
I'm not sure what you're asking. Put a sentence in a question. A sentence in a question mark.
Is the diaphragm important for gut health and stress response?
Oh, yeah. The diaphragm is this huge muscle, relatively speaking. If it's not the biggest muscle, it's one of the biggest muscles in the body, in the center of your body. And when you breathe, the diaphragm goes down so you can fill up the lungs with air. And then when you exhale, I should say when you breathe in, inhale, the diaphragm goes down so you can fill up with air. And when you push your belly outwards, or when your belly goes outwards, the diaphragm goes down, the belly goes outwards, and that fills you up with air. Then the diaphragm comes up and it expels the air. So the diaphragmatic breathing is the most powerful way to breathe. Not everybody breathes diaphragmatically. A lot of people breathe through the chest. They're chest breathers. And those are people who are not maximally oxygenating. As I said earlier, oxygen is the number one need for the body. Everything follows oxygen. So diaphragmatic breathing gives you more oxygen. Under conditions of higher oxygen levels, the body relaxes. Under conditions of lower oxygen levels and more carbon dioxide building up, because both are important, the body goes into stress mode. And that will slow down healing, accelerate aging, lead to the accumulation of acids. It just puts a major long-term inflammatory, longevity shortening stress on the body. Long-term shallow breathing or chest breathing. Conversely, diaphragmatic breathing will add years to your life. Diaphragmatic breathing will improve oxygenation of all the cells of the body. Diaphragmatic breathing not only gets you more oxygen into your body, but it also acts like a pump. It actually pumps blood through the bloodstream, and it also pumps lymph through the lymphatic system. So the diaphragm acts like a pump, in addition to improving oxygenation just by quantity of oxygen that gets into the body, and improving exhalation or elimination of acids and waste through the exhale. It also pumps the blood. So it's an incredibly valuable health strategy to diaphragmatically breathe, to practice slow, deep breathing. It relaxes you. It activates anti-aging chemistry and healing chemistry. It improves oxygenation. It acts like a pump for the lymph and for the blood vessels. Anything that acts like a pump for the lymph is going to improve everything in the body. You asked about the digestive system. The digestive system needs blood too. The digestive system depends on oxygen from the bloodstream too. So yes, absolutely, the digestive system will benefit. And that, by the way, is a hidden cause of digestive issues that nobody ever talks about, is hypoxia, or low levels of oxygen that lead to low levels of oxygen in cells in the intestine. So breathing is important for eating as well. And then also you activate the parasympathetic, the rest and digest nervous system with diaphragmatic breathing, and that also improves digestive function.
Okay, before we go to Becca, Anthony answered. He's the one that had the essential tremors. He's 70 years old. He had skin cancer that was removed with Moz surgery. He has no other health conditions.
Yes, he does. That's not crazy. He doesn't know. He doesn't know he has any health conditions. Nobody has skin cancer without having health issues. Nobody has essential tremors without having underlying health issues. The fact that you're 70, that's different. I was thinking it was a kid. The fact that you're 70 tells me this is a degenerative process. Now, it's still degenerative even if it's a kid, but it's accelerating. So now you're talking about probably inflammation at the neural level, at the nerve level. Probably that's likely as well. So you still got to do the same thing. And so I don't mean to be, when you say he doesn't have any health issues or everything else is fine, I don't mean to be rude, but it's really important to recognize that that's not the case. If you think that's the case, then you think that an angel just dropped skin cancer dust on your head and a little elf shot an arrow in your neck and now you have essential tremors. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to be flip or glib, but it's not logical to say that or to think that. So the reason it's important is not to make you wrong, but to show you have other places you can work. If you say, oh, I'm perfectly healthy except for my essential tremors and my skin cancer, what are you gonna do? But if you backtrack and start working on blood sugar, which almost always is going to be a problem, particularly if you're 70, digestive issues, which again are very common, particularly as we get older, now you have places to work. See what I'm saying? Are you with me? AJ, are you frozen or just staring out into space? No, you're frozen. Did we lose AJ?
He was frozen.
Oh, he was frozen. So anyway.
I'm back.
Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, did that make sense?
You're giving it, yes.
That totally made sense.
Yeah.
Totally made sense. But I can't turn my camera on. So
no worries.
You can try switching the camera.
That totally made sense. Thank you so much for explaining that. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
All right. Hunter out on YouTube wants to know, can Ben tell us if he does resistance training or cardio?
I do both. I'm very serious about resistance training. I've been doing resistance training my whole adult life. And I'm very serious about it as I get older, actually, not even older anymore. Now I'm just flat old. Everybody who's aging should be doing resistance training. Everybody. It's a must. Along the same lines, protein and creatine are musts too as we age. And cardio is also important. I think resistance training probably a little bit more important, but cardio is also important. I don't want to just marginalize that. And I do both. Absolutely. And hopefully I'll continue to do it. As you get older, it gets harder. I will say that. I would crave being in the gym for hours. And I was definitely a gym rat when I was younger. It gets harder and it gets harder to get results. You got to work harder to get results, but it's a must. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, for a woman who's just wanting to tone, would you recommend both?
100%. You're not going to get muscle bound unless you're like, working out 3 hours a day and doing all the accessory nutrients, we'll say. That's not going to happen. For most people, half hour, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. If you're morbidly obese, you could do 1 minute of going up and down a couple stairs. If you're elderly, like super, like 90 years old, you can still get out of a seated position and sit down. Holding your body in a posture, holding a certain posture is in a way resistance training because you're going against gravity. As we get older, we tend to hunch. I do it myself. If you just hold your back up and your chest out, that will build your chest muscles, and that could be an exercise. So there's tons of things you can do. You don't need a gym membership, but weights are awesome. And then at the gym, of course, you'll have a treadmill and that kind of thing. You could do some aerobic exercise, but pickleball, golf, tennis, walking vigorously on the beach. There's lots of ways to get cardio.
Okay. Now, hopefully AJ will speak up if it comes back with us. But you had mentioned muscle, and my question is, how important is protein to maintain muscle or build muscle?
Well, it's how important. It's like the most important thing. I don't want to say the most because you need cofactors, but muscles are protein. They're made of protein, muscle protein. The muscle, the stuff that does the work. How a muscle contracts is very fascinating. It's like this ratchet system where muscle fibers are pulling against each other. And all these muscle fibers are made of protein. And without protein, you can't build the muscle fibers. So it's an absolute must, first of all. And then protein powders are probably the most effective way because you know just how much protein you're getting. I love the TMR shake. That's my favorite protein powder. And, we've talked about it before. It's so darn delicious. But there's lots of ways to get protein. The problem with protein, the more you cook your protein, the more you're going to denature the amino acids, and it's going to make it. A certain amount of cooking is helpful, but too much cooking can ruin protein value. So got to be a little bit careful of protein. There's something else. What else did you ask, Becca? There were two things you said. I forgot what the other one was.
Well, it just how important protein was for muscle, because I know so many people as they add on years, they start losing muscle.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people.
That's a very. I remember what I was going to say. Muscle is metabolically active. Muscle helps you utilize blood sugar. It acts like a sink for blood sugar. So the more muscle you have, the more regulated your blood sugar will be. So building muscle is a very, very important strategy for people who are, as they get older, become dysglycemic. Muscle building, muscle also secretes chemicals that help the entire body grow, particularly the connective tissue. They call myokines and other muscle tissue. So muscle is It's not just skeletal. It's not just a support. It's not just for strength and movement. It's actually biochemically and metabolically active. The more muscle you have, the more metabolically and biochemically healthy you'll be. So you don't need to be muscle bound, but sarcopenia or muscle deterioration as we get older has metabolic and biochemical implications above and beyond just being weak. So developing muscle is important, not just to be strong and for your posture and for your movement. It's also important for metabolism and for biochemistry.
Now, just kind of jumping off that as a bouncing board, for those that are trying to lose weight and they think just eating salads all day long.
Yeah, exactly. Muscle weighs more than fat. So it's denser than fat. So you don't want to lose weight. You want to lose fat. It's not a question of losing weight. People are talking about losing weight. You don't want to lose muscle. You want to lose fat. Eating salads are great because salads are great, but where's your protein coming from?
That's my point.
TMR. If you want to do salads all day, do a TMR shake. Or I do some egg in your salad, hard-boiled egg or scrambled egg or something. Hard-boiled egg probably in your salad.
Okay, Pharmacist Ben.
And if somebody is having a problem with whey from that same product line, is the plant-based protein?
No, plant-based is not going to
touch the same.
You're not going to get the same kind of anabolic benefits from plant protein. Plant protein, a lot of people can't handle plant protein either. Plant protein is a little tricky. It's not the best way to get your protein. If you're vegetarian or you can't do whey, maybe you can do egg. But sometimes vegetarians don't want to do whey or egg. It's harder to get your protein that way. You're building proteins, building amino acids, bean protein or nut protein, but nothing's like animal protein. Unfortunately, I don't like eating meat really. I don't eat a lot of meat, but there's just things in meat and fish that you can't get anywhere else.
You don't eat a lot of meat, huh?
I'm not a big meat eater. No, I don't find it appealing. Although I will say when I do eat meat, it's very filling. But I'm not a big meat eater. No.
I thought you were a T-bone guy.
No, definitely not a T-bone guy.
So Hophead on Rumble is asking, have you ever looked into drinking hydrogenated water? I know we had a
hydrogenated water has some benefits. Definitely has some benefits. Hydrogen is an antioxidant. It's a very powerful antioxidant. but it's not the mighty 90 essential nutrients. But it's not a bad thing for sure. And now they have little hydrogen generating machines that you can use at home to make your own hydrogen water. And it's definitely not a bad idea. I actually took hydrogen pills for a while and I didn't really notice anything, but it's certainly not going to hurt you.
So lastly, Becca's got a 93-year-old male who for 9 years has been on dialysis, told he has congestive heart failure, hard time maintaining blood pressure during dialysis, so he was put on a prescription to keep the heart rate up. 3 days on the 90, ultimate selenium de-stress, super KB, waste elimination is better already.
Good
First time at dialysis since, and they had to stop dialysis as the blood pressure dropped too far.
People get off of dialysis. Becca told me she's gotten some people off of dialysis. Did Becca go? Is Becca still there?
Becca, can you hear us?
Yep, I think she's gone, but she's gotten people off of dialysis. And yes, there are people who get off of dialysis. That's a great story. After only 3 days.
Becca, you're unmuted. She's
gone.
She doesn't know. Becca, you're unmuted. Okay. So I guess there's something going on her system end.
Right.
She's having technical difficulties.
It's been a weird technical day here.
Yeah, it is a weird technical day. But yes, Becca has had some success getting people off. But I guess the question was, the blood pressure is dropping during dialysis. Is there something, should she be not taking the EFAs or more protein?
No, protein, blood pressure dropping. I don't know enough about dialysis to tell her why her blood pressure is dropping. You say while she's on the dialysis machine, her blood pressure is dropping?
Yes.
I don't know why that would be. Typically, low blood pressure is not the big problem. It's high blood pressure, but low blood pressure can be caused by deficiencies in certain proteins or liver issues because the liver makes those proteins. So typically, if you have low blood pressure, you want to focus on metabolic syndrome, liver issues, fatty liver disease, that kind of thing. It may also involve protein deficiencies, although less likely, albumin particularly.
So should she restrict taking the mighty 90 on days only when they're not on dialysis?
Again, you're looking at it as you're looking at nutrients as medicines.
Right.
You're looking at them as drugs. They're not drugs. They're the raw materials your body needs to do its work. So if you have an effect, a biological effect that you want to stop, it's probably not the nutrition that's causing the biological effect. The nutrition runs your body. So you say, okay, well, I'll stop taking my my omega-3s maybe because the omega-3s are making the blood too thin, or for example. Well, you need omega-3s for your brain. You need it for your nervous system. You need it for your skin. You need it for your liver. You can't stop taking nutrients because you don't want to have a certain biological effect. That's not how nutrients work. Nutrients drive the body's chemistry systemically. And that's how you want to look at it. They're making the whole system work better. Doctors don't see systems. The medical model sees just isolated components and isolated nutrients. They don't see entire systems. So if her blood pressure, I'm still not quite clear on why her blood pressure is dropping, but typically, generally speaking, hypotension, low blood pressure would involve the liver, and there's no nutrients that you want to stop taking in order to make your blood pressure in order to keep your blood pressure from getting too low.
Mm-hmm. Becca's intimating that could, after 3 days, the Mighty 90 be having such an effect that her body...
Yes, if they're on drugs. Now, if they're on antihypertensives, if they're on blood pressure lowering drugs, which artificially, mechanically, synthetically hack into the system to lower the blood pressure, and then she takes nutrients, yes, the drugs may be too intense. And that can happen. So I don't know if she's on any antihypertensives, but the nutrients by themselves are not going to make the blood pressure go too low.
She's saying he's on a drug to keep the blood pressure up at this point.
They're keeping the blood pressure up and the nutrients are counteracting the drug?
Not necessarily nutrients counteracting the drug, but the heart couldn't handle the dialysis, so they put him on a drug to keep the blood pressure up.
So what's the question then?
The question is the interaction with the nutrition, and she's thinking maybe the body's working better now. And
I'm sure that's the case, but I wouldn't say that the nutrients were causing the blood pressure to go too low. That's not what she's saying, right?
no, I think she knows better than that, but that she wants to address it for the client.
Okay. I can't tell you the answer to that. I can tell you that it's possible that the nutrients are improving the blood pressure so that they may not need the same amount of drug. And that's always the case with nutrients. And that's why I would say it's crazy to stop your nutrients because they'll interfere with your drugs, because your nutrients will make your drugs more potent, typically. Your nutrients will, for the most part, there are probably exceptions to that. For the most part, nutrients make the body stronger, so your drugs, you don't need as much medication.
Understood. What would you do for someone who's got H. pylori?
Acid, stomach acid, betaine HCl, apple cider vinegar. Also, it might be time for antibiotics for H. pylori infections because it can be serious, and they're very easy to eradicate with antibiotics. But then you got to make sure that you correct them with probiotics.
All right. So, Ruth Ellen,
Do we have more questions?
Ruth Ellen, do we have any other questions that I'm overlooking? Becca's, yes, she's got more questions, Becca. Becca's got more. Ruth
Okay.
Ellen?
I don't know exactly where the questions are. So I hate technical difficulties because it makes everything so complicated.
Yeah,
let's see. First,
okay, Brenda Teresa. I just got my thyroid ultrasound report, and the thyroid is still swelled with nodules. Now they're saying low thyroid. Before it was hyper, etc. Over the age 70.
Yeah, they go together. They can go, not all, very rare, not often.
Osteoporosis, scoliosis.
Okay, so what's the one disease? MBFA disease.
Yeah.
The thyroid regulates everything. So once you're hypothyroid, everything's going to start to deteriorate. Plus you're 70, so you're kind of going against the grain a little bit because your body's already starting to break down. So for a person like that, I would be always the cause of thyroid issues not always, but the most important cause of thyroid issues is autoimmune problems. Backtrack to digestive health. If there's nodules, if there's growths on the thyroid, that tells me the thyroid's working really, really hard. It may not have enough iodine. If there's iodine, that might be a time to take iodine supplements or Fucoid Z or something that has iodine in it. We have another product with iodine.
Ocean's Gold.
Ocean's Gold, right? Ocean's Gold. That's another thing to consider. But I would be looking at the triangle of disease. I'd be backtracking to the triangle of disease. Osteoporosis and scoliosis are degenerative conditions of the connective tissue of the bone. And when you're hypothyroid, that's going to lead to that. Everything kind of breaks down and nothing gets repaired effectively. I just don't know if the hypothyroidism, that's secondary itself. The scoliosis and the osteoporosis are tertiary. The third. Second is the thyroid. You got to get to the metabolic issues that are causing hypothyroidism, and that's your first 2 points on the triangle of disease. Healthy Start Pack, all the digestive support. If you have a longevity rep, they can work with you on the digestive health ends of things. If you have dysglycemia, which you probably do if you're 70 and subsisting on the standard American diet, getting your blood sugar and insulin under control. And that's a very important distinction, by the way. The blood sugar is easier to control than the insulin because we can keep track of the blood sugar, but we can't keep track of our insulin. So nobody ever checks for your insulin. And if your insulin levels are high, that's going to cause their own a whole constellation of symptoms associated with just that. For example, rapid cell growth is one of the big things that happens when people have elevated insulin. Cells divide really rapidly, so you get these things like boils and cysts and fibroids. All are associated with excess insulin. And then also, when insulin is revved up, your cholesterol will go up. And so cholesterol elevations are really not about cholesterol as much as they're about insulin. Also, hypothyroidism is going to throw off your blood fats too. So there's a whole host of things happening here. Focus on the digestive system and the metabolic system, the blood sugar, the first 2 points in the triangle of disease. That's what I'd be doing. Healthy Start Pack, TMR Shake, digestive support, healthy blood sugar pack, actually, and maybe even the ultimate niacin. Fucoid Z would probably be helpful for this person, and the Ocean's Gold, as we said, because it may be that they could be that they're iodine deficient as well.
Okay, semi-testimonial, semi-question. Alfredo says in Spanish, or this is, I'm not entirely sure, this might be a combination. Had horrific autoimmune skin inflammation 10 years ago. Steroids knocked it down. Symptoms came right back. MD told me absolutely not to fast. I fasted 3 days and 100% healed.
There you go.
Alfredo is saying, I have A1C 7.1 and urea 27. What should I eat to lower the levels?
To lower the levels of what?
Of the A1C at 7.1, and then VUN urea level.
No. VUN is blood urea nitrogen. That's a kidney problem. So this person is with the A1C and the kidney issues. This person is either uncontrolled or poorly controlled blood sugar. So they said, what foods or what supplements?
Said foods, but I mean,
foods you want are fiber foods. Lots of fiber. Fiber will help suck up blood sugar, act like a sponge. So more fiber is important. More water to dilute the blood sugar. As far as anti-sugar foods, that's a really good question. I have to think about that. More protein. Fill up with protein. The amino acid glutamine can help with blood sugar. You might want to use glutamine supplements, and it won't help with blood sugar as much as it will help with sugar ingestion. Glutamine is like an amino acid that satisfies your need for sugar. Not if you're really craving sugar, it won't, but has a little bit of sugar, gives you a little bit of the benefits of sugar. And so high protein foods, TMR shake. Of course, supplementally, the healthy blood sugar pack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times when you talk about these aminos, you don't talk about our amino precursor formula. Is there a reason?
No, because I don't know about it.
You know about it.
This amino precursor, it's called?
It's the, Ruth Allen, what's it called?
It's called the HGH. It used to be called the HGH Youth Complex, and now it's called HGH Amino Complex.
Is it a blend of aminos?
Yes.
I don't know all the products.
Yeah, and they want you to take it on an empty stomach at bedtime. So
it's the amino acids associated with growth hormone.
So it's supposed to stimulate.
It's not all the amino acids.
It's got a good number.
Does it?
It does. The amino charge shake has a lot of amino acids.
That's new.
Very high.
I stand corrected. I don't know about it, so I have to look into that.
I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
And then Becca is mentioning she's put a question mark on fiber to lower sugar, and then her second question is, why are so many people suffering from extreme fatigue?
Fiber to lower sugar, is that a surprise?
It's a surprise. I mean,
fiber will not only improve the excretion of sugar, fiber will slow down the release of sugar into the intestine. Mm-hmm. That's one of the most important benefits of fruits over fruit juices.
So we should be eating celery all day?
As much as you can.
Mm-hmm. And then I know you got to go. Why are so many people suffering?
What did Becca say? What was the second thing Becca said?
Why are so many people suffering from extreme fatigue?
Because life is stressful, man. Life is tiresome. It takes a lot of work to be alive. You know why, really? Let me tell you why. That's a great question, actually. Why we're suffering from extreme. And I'm not going to, nutritional deficiencies and hypoglycemia and poor oxygenation, all those definitely have an effect. But here's one of the hidden reasons why everybody's fatigued. We're always trying to control everything. You know how stressful it is, how tiring it is to try to control everything? From the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, think about all the things we're trying to control. And that takes a lot of energy. Learning to allow life to be the way it is and not fighting it, riding the horse the way it's going, is really a big part of living an effective life and having a lot of energy in life. You try to control everything, it's going to be really difficult. Also, one of the, I always tease people about having overthinkitis. Thinking requires a lot of energy. That's why meditation is so important. That's why people like to sleep. And that's why people like to watch movies and TV, because thinking requires a lot of energy. So overthinking, trying to control things, in addition to more physiologic causes like hypoxia, low levels of oxygen, poor nutrition, hypoglycemia. Those all play a part of fatigue as well. I thought Rebecca had another question though. I thought I missed it.
No, you answered, but there's more. Gemma is saying, husband enlarged prostate. Thank you. You guys are fantastic. Does donating blood every now and then have any health benefits?
Yes, donating blood's great. It definitely has health benefits. And for the prostate, is a fatty gland, so you want to focus on fats. Stay away from all the bad fats, the fried fats, and use good nutritional fats, omega fats, especially omega 3s, and also vitamin E, and also minerals that are handled by the fatty part of the body, like zinc and selenium. Of course, Jeffy's got the Prost FX, which has all that. There's a new prostate product, I forgot what that is, that has a lot of that stuff in it as well. Staying away from the bad fats, intaking the good fats in terms of the micronutrient fats and the minerals that are handled by the fatty part of the body. That's how you deal with prostate issues. And then last but most certainly not least, there's a wonderful steroid-like substance, phytosteroid, plant steroid, called beta sitosterol or cytosterol, which is incredible for the prostate. And you'll get that in the Prost FX and also the other, I forgot what that's called, AJ. Maybe Becca or you guys can help me with the new.
Well, the Prostat is maybe not what you're referring to.
I don't remember what it was. I just saw it a couple weeks ago. And it does have some really good fats for the prostate. Consider the prostate, though, to be responsive to fats and also, by extension, to sugars. And prostate disease is part of metabolic syndrome. So again, where you see the health challenge or the health problem is not where the problem or the challenge begins. You got to go upstream. In the case of the prostate, fats, fatty vitamins, fat absorption at the level of the intestine, and blood sugar. And I do have to go. So thank you, and God bless you all. Have a beautiful week.
Are you cutting out on us?
I got to cut out, man. I'm late.
There's more people more important than the folks that are. Ben, we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we'll do this next Monday.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. They're doing good, huh?
I don't know about that.
No? Last I checked.
Sing
the Mets song. Can you sing the Mets song? Have us go out with the Mets song?
Meet the Mets?
Yeah.
Might be a copyright issue.
No, they won't care. Not what you're singing. They wouldn't even be able to tell.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining in.
Everybody.
They love you from Michigan, and they love you everywhere else.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.